Hey guys, Onan here. So I've been reflecting on a lot of things since I've kind of been on this journey of celibacy. And you know, and I've kind of thought this way for a while, but it's becoming a little more clear to me that our the male body, at least, I really I don't know I understand at all the female body and mind, but the male body and the male mind, I mean, I think if you're sexually active, you are more or less a drug addict. Now, it's a good drug. It's a natural drug that God gave us, but you're more or less a drug addict, and you don't just go from clean and back to drug addict. Like, you're going to do one or the other, and and that's why I think more and more. I think for most guys, and maybe guys that just have a lower drive don't deal with this. But this is where I don't think natural family planning really works unless the couple is using other acts during times when you can't come together in the full conjugal act. I feel the more and more I think about it, the more I think other acts have to be there by design, and they're not. Like I don't think it's actually reasonable for a man to be sexually active without the availability of other acts or perhaps sometimes solo acts, because, like it or not, you are going to have periods where your body does not get the sexual activity at the rate that it requires, and I think it is a need. I think if you're at a period where you're sexually active, I think sexual activity is a need. Now, I dispute that it needs to be sex, and quite frankly, I think this is where historically the church has maybe gotten this wrong, is thinking that all sexual activity has to be the full conjugal act. I think that is directly contrary to how most of our bodies work. Now, and I'm not saying that, and in fact, I still really think that contraception is not a solution for most people, and there are other ways around it, other better ways around it. And I do think there are benefits to not being able to engage in the conjugal act itself for periods of time, but I think you can't just shut off the sexual faculty entirely and then just kind of flip it back and forth. That really is the part of natural family planning that I think is just not really reasonable. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you are going to be sexually active, your both spouses have to be fully committed to that and fully committed to maintaining that. And if you want to do it through the conjugal act all the time, great, go for it. But it shouldn't be required. I don't believe in the marital debt at all. I don't think anyone has the right to demand the conjugal act itself in most circumstances. But I do think that if you are going to be sexually active, I think um, the spouses have a right to require other acts. Now, what does that mean? Well, it could be oral stimulation, hand stimulation, I don't know, other, maybe electronic stimulation, but it needs to be mutually enjoyable, or at least enjoyable for the person that's requesting it. And it should be there on a fairly regular basis. And I would say that if I really don't find the arguments against moral arguments against masturbation to be all that persuasive, but I do think it reflects an imbalance in your relationship. It means that you are not having sex or sexual activity as much as your body needs. And so if you are going to be, let's say, having to go out of town for 2 weeks for work, you're if you're going to be sexually active and you plan to be resume being sexually active when you come back, I don't know how you get through that without solo, because the body has to be calmed down. I just really think that's true. So that in and so I think it really does come down to, is the couple willing to be committed to other acts as well as the conjugal act, to keep that sexual frequency at a regular pace. And based on my experience, I think it should be every 3 to 4 days, barring some, illness or something that really makes anything impossible, including, other acts. That stuff's going to happen, but you don't really need much time or space to be able to engage in another act in favor of your spouse. You just don't. A bathroom will suffice. So I really think that but if you're not going to permit other acts, and especially if you're going to try to tell the man there's no solo acts, I think NFP is an absolute disaster, and celibacy is a better option long term. No, you could be celibate for a year and then decide to go back and let's say we'll have a baby, but I don't think you can keep flipping back and forth. I think because there's a detox period, and that's what I'm going through right now. There's a detox period from being a sexually active person. I'm not sure how long that takes, but I'm going to try to find out and see how bad the process is, because you have to factor that in. I think if you're going to become sexually active, realize that there probably is going to become a time when you have to come back off of it and detox, such as when your wife has a baby. And I think in most circumstances, going to be off limits for 6 weeks. And you might just say, you know what? We're going to build in a 6 month total cooling off period after the baby's born, something like that. Long enough where you can detox, kind of reset, recalibrate, and then if you want to resume at that point in time, do it. But this on again, off again stuff is completely, um, I just think, unworkable, and is a cause for insane amounts of frustration. Um, and and I think also is an opportunity for abuse by both spouses, but I would say especially for women who don't necessarily feel an obligation to satisfy their husband's sexual needs, even if it's outside the conjugal act. I do think if you want to be sexually active with your husband, I think it has to be all or none. And I think you have to be prepared to meet those needs. I think they are needs. I don't think I think they're more than just wants and luxuries. They're needs when you're sexually active. And if you're not able or willing to do that, then husbands, you're going to have to suck it up and detox and be celibate for a period of time, maybe a long period of time. I don't know. That's my thought process. It's still a work in progress, but that's kind of how I look at it now. And so we'll see. I'll be testing this theory out over time, but wanted to throw that out there. Appreciate you guys for all you do and listening. And until next time, everyone, have a good one.